You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Whodunnit After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Whodunnit After Show.
I don't know this
Is
one.
this Murder, She Wrote?
Yes. Yes, it totally is.
Yeah.
I went to Nancy Drew, but those are just books.
Yeah, no, well, if Nancy Drew were a show, it'd probably be Murder, She Wrote.
Yes. Hello again. Bing is for doing, and what are we doing? We're doing a Whodunnit After Show. I'm your host, Stef Z, and joined across from my lovely matching co-hosts tonight.
Hey guys, it's Virginia.
It's Brian.
Sweet. So let's get right into it. So very at the beginning of this episode, we see the teams again. It's a very big point of the teams. And actually they're talking about, destroying the teams almost. How Lindsay was part of both the team, and now they're all trying to ostracize her and get her kicked out, which I think is a very interesting strategy. And it took 4 episodes to get to that, where they're like, wow, we can actually get somebody gone. And even though she was the one that was safe first last time, and we were talking about do they go with that this means that she's really smart, or are they going to all pit against her? And they kind of all pit against her.
Yeah, I definitely think, since this is a brand new series, they kind of have to figure out which way to go with how to eliminate people. Can it be just 2 teams, or should it be knocking off people one by one? Every reality, kind of competition like this, there's always, different strategies. And so it's interesting, I see Gino's side of it, where they're like, okay, let's just get rid of her because she's kind of screwing them both. But then also I can see Cam's side of it, where he's he needs to keep his team strong because, it's us against them.
Right.
So it's definitely interesting to see how this season is going to play out, and, what tips season 2, if there is a season 2, how they'll, start off strategizing in the beginning.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I think the rules will change a little bit, and I think also what we know, or what we're clued into, so to speak, will also be changing if, we have future seasons of this, which we would love because we love it. Okay, so why don't we start with our 3 scenes, unless you want to say anything else about teams. Anyone?
Brian, did you have any thoughts on that?
I have no thoughts.
That's rare.
Very, very rare. Okay, it was very interesting. So we break down into the 3 locations, but this time there's a new place to investigate and get clues. So Giles comes in and says that you can actually inspect the mountain lion and see what kind of clues are on the mountain lion, which again is only sleeping for another short period of time. So they got to be careful. I love that they threw that in as if the lion would actually wake up and eat them too. But you got to give him credit for throwing those little things in, because it brings it to that ridiculous point, but so it keeps it light and funny. But we're also all who's this killer? You know what I mean? We're all intrigued to know, but it keeps it a little bit really,
Yeah, I definitely think we've been very critical sometimes of the realisticness of the show, or the reality of the show, because it is kind of silly. We know that the mountain lion is not going to wake up, but then we have to think back. They're trying to make this a murder mystery, and as real as possible. So they're giving them that fake scenario of, you have this amount of time, so it might wake up.
Right.
I think in my head when I'm watching it, I have to remember that part of it, okay, this isn't real, because obviously I guess the mountain lion could wake up.
That was a stuffed mountain lion that they were looking at.
But
And Brian keeping it real.
Well, no, I just,
And there we go. That was my exact point. It's like, okay,
Right.
going into its gums and stuff.
All right.
well, they pulled out that piece of Dawn, but then realized
Yes.
it was steak.
Yes.
Right.
Right, but I think that's
Okay.
we've even had our YouTube commenters say that
Yeah.
we're taking it a little bit too serious, which we love your comments, even the cruel ones. We do appreciate you guys watching us and
Yeah.
commenting, but that is something that some of our viewers have said we are taking it too realistic, and I think that's just because Brian, you really pick it apart, like you really.
But I think that's good. I think bringing that reality to the show is good, and like we can discuss it. I mean, just so everyone out there knows, like we know that the mountain lion, it wasn't going to eat anybody.
And we also know that the people really aren't dying.
Yeah. But we do appreciate your comments. We appreciate your feedback. You guys download us on iTunes, comment, helps keep the lights on, all that kind of stuff. It's really good for us to hear what you guys want. We have a couple things later, actually, that I want to mention from things that people actually wrote in, some theories that people had. And people also, one of the comments was in our predictions, they would like if we would predict who we thought would be killed next week, like
Yeah.
after Ulysses dies. So I think we're going to incorporate that into our predictions as well. So, okay, back to the lion. Okay, so we don't really get anything from the lion. We get that there's blood on the paws and the mouth, and we get that, they came up with this great idea that the lion was delivered. Okay, we got that. The lion didn't just roam into Malibu or wherever they're filming to do that. So we got that was good. I think the interesting thing, and to the lion went Chris and Gino. I think the interesting thing for the morgue, where Melina, Sasha, and Ulysses went, is I felt like I saw a big change, not big, but like a slight change in the information gathered from the morgue, because of previous times, Don was always there, and he was using his expertise to break stuff down. Like once the whole coach cover was blown, he was really, giving interesting things about the morgue, and since he wasn't there, they were kind of a little bit like dumbfounded, for lack of a better way of saying it. You know what I mean? They were like, well, he's pink and he's red, and
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, if you look Sasha and Melina, although they ended up with the relevant information, I don't think they got it from the morgue. Certainly Ulysses didn't seem to gather anything.
He seemed clueless every time he went to the morgue. Like, I feel like all the people that actually went to the morgue never had to figure anything out, because you're right, Don always gave them the information. He always was like, well, this is exactly why they're pink. Or, like he would have given us the exact information.
I think he
from
probably
the
would have
first-
said that looks like poisoning or something.
right, or reaction,
Right,
or
yeah.
something like that. He wouldn't have been like, this is one of them said like an overblooding or something, whatever
This
they
is
say.
pink stuff,
Yes.
and there's white stuff. Like,
Right.
he had exact reasoning for everything. So I definitely think that was, poor Don on the table, because we
Right.
won't get that expert, opinion
It was
anymore.
very interesting. It did bring in the elements of like what you would actually ask and see, at an actual crime scene. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Somebody else might step up and have more information. Like, it would have been interesting if Dana would have been in the morgue, because she, when we get into later, she clearly knew that it was poisoning because of her family history and work stuff and whatever. But I guess that all just depends on who, winds up where, so to speak. And then we have the kitchen. And apparently the kitchen, not that you get all the clues at first, but that's where most of the clues are.
Yeah.
I was actually very surprised at Ronnie. I think he's proving that bounty hunters are the way to go when you need to solve a crime, because he figured it out, other than the whole I need to cause a distraction. He figured that out, and everybody else was kind of just
To be a counterpoint, to be fair, Don maybe had a little more chops than we gave him credit for, as we see this week, and he was just sharing the information, being a public servant. So, it's not... Anyway.
Okay. But, Ronnie, at first I was kind of on the fence about Ronnie, but now I feel like, he really is good at investigating
He
stuff.
does seem to be showing off every week.
Well, last week he had, a lot as well. And I did what you mentioned that I don't want to skip over. I really like how Ronnie, he's getting the game more. he was like, okay, I'm gonna try and distract them, even though his distraction was
I
like,
was like, how do you do a one-person distraction from yourself?
yeah, but it worked because he was looking at the stove. And then all of a sudden he's like, okay, I figured this out. This is what this is going to be. And if I stand here, everyone's going to come over and be like, what was he looking at? What did he see? So he, says like, let me reenact the cat, the lion. And he starts hopping on stuff, which makes them not look there. So I think that was very smart of him. And then, it's just the growth. Because in the beginning of the show, it was very much like, okay, oh my God, I'm excited. I have a clue. And everyone like followed everyone, which is still happening. But he showed that he...
Especially by Sasha.
Yeah, we'll get there. I can't stand her.
See that we do.
Really?
Oh, man. Thorn in my side.
Yeah, it is. Well, some other things that we picked up from the kitchen that I think were key to figuring it out, not only was, something happened with the stove, was that there wasn't a lot of blood, which Dana said, which, was very interesting. And she said from her nursing skills, it looks like something else, which later, turned into something different.
Right, and I think they kind of really pieced that together because even at the morgue, they were like, well, there's not really a lot of wounds. And then with the mountain lion, they said, they even said something like, oh, there's not a lot of blood. Like, everybody kept wondering where the blood was. So I think everybody kind of knew
Except Ulysses, who in his final thing said you pulled him down and killed him in some odd, but still would be cat killing him way.
Right.
Somebody else in the exits, I think, said that he bled to death.
That was Ulysses.
Oh, it was him. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
By mauling.
Yeah.
Which is
although Chris said that the killer released oxygen to kill Don.
She did say that. I think that was a Freudian slip or whatever, but yeah, too much oxygen so that he got a heart attack. Love you, Chris. But that was just funny. And then after the kitchen, anything else you want to add about the kitchen?
No, I'm just still laughing.
I like the kitchen actually. It's got really nice appliances.
It is a very nice kitchen.
If we're saying stuff about the kitchen.
Well, it was nice how they stepped on the mat and then it opened into the thing.
Yeah, they did figure out that.
And then they flipped it over. So, like, it is
It was very
interesting.
unequal almost this week, at least. I mean, maybe we just didn't, maybe the people in the other places just didn't uncover stuff that there was available to them. But, so much of between the later mystery and then the kitchen, I think you could get basically everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, because there wasn't much at the morgue other than he didn't have a lot of wounds and he was pink. Because they even flipped him over and were like, oh, there's paw prints on his back. That's interesting. Well, they kept saying everything was interesting.
Yeah.
No, significant.
Significant.
The word of the day is significant,
Yes.
apparently, on Whodunnit. So, but yeah, no, the kitchen, that was very significant. How they realized that once you stepped on the mat, the door slid up and the cat was already there. The other thing that they did find on the cat with the lion that we didn't, mention was the tag, which I really thought there was gonna be some clue on that tag, but there wasn't. Or maybe you're right. Maybe they just didn't find it.
Yeah, one of the things is that if Ronnie hadn't said, hey, let me look in the stove, we might never have known that there was that significant clue in the stove, right? I mean, there was enough other clues around there that it could conceivably have been that was all there would have been. Like, we wouldn't have been like, oh, well, there must be missing something. So, and the other places, there might have been a lot of other things they could have seen.
Right.
Because it just seemed that both of them were so sparse as to clues.
Well, I guess the thing that we did see from the mountain lion was that when they opened the mouth, it was a steak that came out, and it wasn't, a piece of, like, flesh, because that also signified that, he didn't really eat Dawn. He ate the steak.
Right.
Well, you could eat both.
Yeah, but it signified also that Don died. Like, Don was, like, from at the end when they reveal what happens, Don died. Like, he got the cyanide in his face, and then he died, and the cat, like, ate him a little bit, but probably smelt the steak and went there. At least that's what, they said. We know Don didn't really get eaten. And then from in there, I think it's very interesting. Again, this whole Lindsay drama, we have Lindsay and Chris, and they overhear, what the other team's saying. You know what I mean? They're listening in, they're overhearing, and she's like, wow, they all don't trust me. So in her head, she's thinking now, I really need to stay in close with, Cam and Ulysses and Chris. And then we see a flip. We see Chris then go back and tell Melina and Sasha that she doesn't trust Lindsay. You know what I mean? It was like literally like flip-flopped.
Yeah, I don't understand why Chris did that. Like, that was what I understand that she doesn't trust her, but then she went and said, oh, we were spying on you. Like, why would you tell them we were spying on you? That didn't make any sense to me at all.
I don't know, but I do know one thing. I mean, if they have to basically, Cam and Chris need to figure something out right now, starting with the next episode, because you can't have a two-person team in this game. There's 3
Locations.
places. Yeah, I mean, so they need to either, lure Lindsay back into their trust or defect. Because once you drop below 3, like, you can't, you are giving up one of the locations, which is really interesting. And, I don't think they did a very good job of thinking about what would happen if they lost one person. I mean, Cam kind of mentioned that, well, we'd need to have 4, but then they didn't really, I don't know how they didn't seem to treat Lindsay very well. And now, she seems to trust no one, and probably rightly so.
Yeah, but I mean, I think she still has to go with them because who else does she have? She knows the other team is voting for her off. And I mean, the interesting thing about this show also is that you don't necessarily have to get some clues to get other clues.
Right.
Like, we see, like, as we continue to move forward, once they give all the clues, then Sasha just starts following people, or you can overhear somebody. Like, you don't necessarily have to have a team. I mean, it helps, but
It's easy to freeze out 2 people, I think. I
Right.
mean, if you have someone who's absolutely not going to a location, then, you don't have to worry about that at all. I mean, you just quietly tell the other people in your group, or don't tell them.
Right.
I mean, I think it's going to start now that we're going to see the other group is definitely going to start fracturing probably the next episode pretty significantly.
It will be interesting. I wonder who will be that third. For some reason, I think that Lindsay will be part of that team. So
they have no other choice.
Right, but they could say no and get somebody else.
But who else would defect to that team? Why would you defect to that team? You wouldn't.
Gino.
He's a feisty
I feel like he's on his own. Like, he just does what he needs to do for himself.
Right. But I think, too, the reason why Chris was telling Melina and Sasha went back to the original plan of everybody against Lindsay. That's why
right.
she went and told them, because she was playing it up like, well, let me go and look like this, and then they're not going to get mad at me that I was listening in because I was doing something with Lindsay, but then Lindsay heard what you guys said. You know what I mean? Like, she was playing both sides as well. So I
Yeah.
think that was maybe why that was happening. And then, so after that, both teams, are uniting, like we said, to throw Lindsay off, and I think that ties back into a lot of that. And then we have the killer note, which, begins the first series of clues for this episode. And it says, take you out of your element, where you're cool and laid back. And Brian, you were saying that right away you knew that was the morgue.
Yeah, well,
Right.
because I'd seen the periodic table on the wall there before, for one thing, but also cool and laid back. I mean, it just seemed to me that it'd be, laid back, stiff as a corpse.
Right.
I mean, where the other people went when they showed them first, I said, yeah, those are reasonable. I thought that's a reasonable alternatives, although, they don't usually show the correct place first, too. So I was, but yeah, as soon as they said it, I was thinking morgue.
Well, the C and the N also.
And the C, I mean,
Yeah.
It was very clear that they were talking about somewhere that, has elements, and they probably weren't relying on people to remember their 8th grade science. The
periodic table, yeah, right.
So I was thinking, yeah, morgue, and sure enough, there's the periodic table of elements, has carbon and nitrogen right next to each other. They're given a magnifying glass, which is also kind of tips them off that it's going to be something written down. If you go up, there's on the periodic table, there's tiny little riddle just
Right.
written there.
Right. Before that, though, I really still think that it's very interesting that there's different options. You mean there was like
Right.
people go to the freezer, people went outside, like people still are like they think they know, so they go, but some people are so lost from the beginning clue.
Yeah, but I mean, they intentionally, I think, do a good job of
Right.
of making clues that aren't just ambiguous, but are but are ambiguous yet suggestive of actual locations that correlate to multiple locations. So
Exactly.
right when someone goes to the pool and then they explain why their theory of going to the pool, you think to yourself, yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Out of your element being, well, what are we in now? I mean,
Air,
that's-
water, yeah.
so I mean, some of them are also always just wacky and off the ball when they do explain it, which usually it's Dana, but not this week. Well, she did a little of the H2O stuff. But.
Yeah, I definitely think they do a really good job with like your first instinct, and then they just start running, you know, and it's like, but you only have that certain amount of time because you know if your first instinct isn't right, someone else's might be, and then you have that bell working against you. So it's basically like you got to figure it out as fast as possible. So.
Or just find someone like Sasha.
Or be Sasha and just follow people around.
You guys love her, don't you?
Well, no, I just, she's, you know, she seems to have a bad attitude about it. Like,
I just don't like that, you know, I really don't like it when people aren't playing the game to figure it out themselves. I feel like you're just leaning on people for, like, if you can't figure it out, I don't know. I just don't like that element of it, you know, just writing on someone else to figure it out and just like, oh, I'm going to follow them around and then get the clues. Like, why couldn't she just go figure it out for herself?
Well, she just did it in kind of a huffy manner. I'm fine with someone following someone else, but at least have a good sense of humor about the fact that you're not getting it. Don't be like,
Yeah, she is a little bit
But it
sassy.
could all be
She's very
playing.
sassy.
It could all be playing us. Like she's still there. I don't know that she's got a scared card yet.
No, she hasn't.
She's just hovering.
She's a bit sassy
Like I
for
think
me,
she
though.
is, yeah, but I think it's good. She's in my pick. I have another pick that's, you know, we'll talk about later. That's kind of rising up my list, but she's still there. Like she does. She's playing the game. She's being smart. She's just kind of hovering right above, you know, and I don't know.
We're pursing our lips on this side of the table.
I know you are, but that's okay. Okay, so from the morgue and the periodic table, then we get another clue that says upstairs closet. It leads them to the closet. And then in the closet, there's the handkerchief. And in the handkerchief, there's another riddle, which again, I love the sequence of riddles because like with that mentality that people can go to different places, it's like you have to be right more than one time. You can get one clue and then be sent so off, which is really like, so it's not the first person to get the first clue automatically is gonna, you know, ultimately get the bell rung. You know what I mean? Like they're going around and it keeps the game real. You know, and then it says the riddle that you're hungry for science, which I think we all kind of, you know, it brings them to the library, but we all kind of are like, could have been hungry for knowledge.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty weak riddle for going to the library, but I mean, maybe the number part kind of narrowed it down to a safe or sort of a combination lock,
Right.
But I mean, you don't necessarily know that it's a safe because in episode 1, there was a combination lock on the outside container for one thing. But I mean, even knowing that it's a safe, hungry for science, just to me, it's a lab maybe. You know, if they hadn't already gone to the morgue, I just
Right.
library. But Gino seemed to know pretty quickly for somebody who's
Right.
not the killer.
Right, and I wonder too if something was edited out that in the library there was like a science section that they've seen before, because it seemed like he kind of went to the library and like right to the safe.
Right.
You know, like I'm sure there's not just a safe on the wall like chilling at all times.
Well, no,
You
yeah,
know what
he
I mean?
like had to open a door and there was a safe behind it,
Right.
or like a painting,
Right.
or he moved
There was
something.
there was a door reference in the clue, although it was front door.
Right.
And maybe the library is by the front door, and that would be more something that we could. I don't know the layout of the house still. They're a little
Right.
gamey with their angles.
But yeah, I felt like there was something in there, and maybe we missed it, but I feel like there was something in there that it was kind of like, okay, he's opening a door and he's in a safe. Like, how did he know the safe was there? Like, it looks
Right.
like he ran right to that,
Yeah,
moved
and no
it,
one
and
else
got in the
got
safe.
it.
And
Right.
exactly, no one followed
No
him.
one followed him. I mean, it was almost bizarre how he immediately was there.
It was like he did like a little wiggle step and like vanished. Like there was
Yeah.
people right behind him
Yeah.
getting the handkerchiefs.
there were like 4 people getting the
Right.
handkerchiefs.
Well, and so that makes me wonder, like, are they allowed to like look over the house beforehand and kind of observe things? Because he even said, okay, there's a safe in the master bedroom and there's a safe in the library, and he immediately went there. You know, so it's like, were they given time to kind of look around the house for stuff without each
when
other?
they first got there?
Maybe when they first got there.
Because
or
Gino
kind
took a nap when they first got
That's
there.
he
true.
did, wasn't him?
But maybe he napped in the library.
No, he was napping in his room. They showed it.
Well, I think too they're getting more familiar with the house just
Right.
because they're being there. So
Right.
they might be, you know, seeing things, making notes, keeping their own notes of like what I saw this weird thing in this. Maybe that could have to do with one clue later, which again, the whole theory that there's clues in every episode that are leading up to who the killer is, that they can go back or something like that. You know what I mean? Maybe there's a piece of that puzzle that we're not privy to.
And maybe he just went to get a book earlier.
Well, see, that was the thing. If it would have went to the library
Right.
and it would have said like a science section and he moved the book and we saw the door open and then there's the safe, like, to me, that would have been a little bit more clue.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I just was curious what those other 3 or 4 people went. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like, this isn't like a 10-acre thing when they're inside the house. I mean, as far as, physical proximity, even just somebody who went off on a red herring could potentially see, Gino on the way. So it was odd to me that, none of the other 8 people saw him and he just immediately went there. And he closed the safe back. He put it back in the safe and closed it up again, which was weird.
Very weird to me too, because if I would have found that clue, I would not have put it back in the safe.
Right, and
I would have just put it in my pocket. I would have folded it up, put it in my pocket. So if somebody else did get there with the handkerchief, clue with the combination on it, they'd open it up and be like, "Oh, this was wrong." They would think that it was a red herring.
Didn't the bell go off?
not until he put it back.
Oh, well, maybe there was instructions on there like he had to put it back then.
Right. Well, I mean,
Right.
I think there were instructions that you have to. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, maybe that was just as to try to either to honestly or to to tip us off that he didn't know it was the last clue. So if he's trying to let us know that he's not the killer, because you would know if you were the killer that that's the last clue. But if you weren't the killer, you wouldn't know that's the last clue until the bell rings. So maybe you would have to put it back.
Right. I think no. I think I understand what you're saying. It's like his instinct, like before the bell rang, his instinct was to put it back. Rather than, I feel like if that was the last clue and I got it, my instinct would be just to read it and hold on to it, and then the bell would go off and I would still have it with me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the sequence of that was a little bit interesting to me as well, because, like exactly that. It's like they don't know, like he didn't know he had to put it back and shut the safe in order for the bell to go off.
Right. And maybe also because of the way that, the season works, like you have to, have the clue out, get the information, and then like someone else could be there reading it with you,
Right.
or there's other people. So maybe that had to do with something like you have to put it away first in order for it to end.
Yeah.
So that if there are 3 people there, you have to read it as fast as you can and put it back.
Yeah, or maybe it said something to the effect of like, you'll have this clue for 30 seconds, take a photographic picture in your mind, and now you know. You know what I mean? Like there was maybe some other, because there was a lot of writing on it. It was a schematic. There was a lot of, writing on that. Okay, so then that pretty much, Gino figures out it's the cyanide. And I think that it was very interesting, again, how he, in his head, went and talked to Dana first. And she knew, which was very shocking to me.
That was another thing that like jumped. you
Right.
know? I mean, they were talking, and suddenly Dana knew the exact cause
Right.
of death, and it wasn't even clear how he approached her, whether he told her anything. I mean, it was just like, and maybe that's something that they're doing to kind of create intrigue.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, she seemed to know the exact like cyanide, hydrogen cyanide powder that was placed in there, and then when you do a specific thing to the compound, it turns into a gas that floats up.
Well, I think, before when we went back to when they were all sitting around talking, they were saying poisoning, and I think it was just kind of like she had the time to then like think about it, as the clues were going. So she had a pretty good time, if she's a nurse, to figure out, okay, he was poisoned. What could it have been that poisoned him and turned his hands red? And then she remembered that it was her family or her dad that did that.
But why would Gino? The big intrigue in my mind is, why does Gino pick the person who's been the weakest the last 2 weeks? The last 2 weeks is the person to go to, and is it because she's been the weakest? It just seems like.
Well, because he wants to save his own team. That's what he initially said.
No, but why does he go to Dana? That's all I mean. He's got 4 other people. Why doesn't he go to Ronnie? Why doesn't he go to?
Wasn't she the first person to approach him?
We didn't see that. We just saw them
Yeah, it was a
talking.
little
That's the
unclear.
thing.
Yeah. But in that, too, I thought that, the fact that he picked Ulysses and Lindsay to be the ones that didn't get the proper information, and they later aren't the ones to get the scared cards, there's something in there happening, because he told everyone except the two of them. That's what I thought was weird, that he told everyone except the two of them that it was this poison. And then Chris said it was oxygen.
Well, he just told them there was a rig. He brought in Chris and Ulysses, or excuse me, Chris and Cam, and he said to them there was a rig in the stove. He intentionally held out the cyanide portion.
For Chris and Cam.
Yeah.
Yeah, because remember he said, I'm going to
tell him enough that
just enough.
Right. Basically, what he was trying to
But
engineer.
he told Lindsay less.
He didn't tell them anything. Basically, what he was trying to engineer is he's like, okay, here are the 5 people on my team. You get all of it from me. Here are the 2 people I like most from the other team. You get half of it. The 2 people I want out, you get none. And then what happened was that the portion of information that he shared with the middle 2 mixed down to the bottom 4. And he figured that out when they didn't get the scared card. So now he knows that his attempt to bring those 2 into his confidences did not work.
And he picked them because he thought Cam was the killer. And so he was like, if I even try to do that, he's still going to be saved no matter what. Like, he's not going to die. So I have to try to kill off these other 2 people.
Right, but in that, then Cam winds up being scared as well.
But not killed.
But not killed.
So
And
we
so
don't know.
maybe that is because Cam really is the killer, and then he just wants to make it look like he's not the killer, so
Right.
he gets the scared card, because as we see, Ulysses is the one that ends up dying anyway.
It's
Right.
weird though that
That
Gino would,
Lindsay's-
well, I think it's weird that Gino would be so sure of who he thinks is the killer at this point that he would actually base his who's in and who's out decision on it. That to me didn't.
And I'm just interested because I thought it would have been very, very interesting if the scare cards were that Lindsay was included in that. Because then it would really show that because in a way, their manipulation of the game failed. Like, everyone to try and ostracize Lindsay out, she didn't even get a scared card. So it didn't work.
Right.
So if that would have worked, I think it would have been really interesting, because then it's like, wow, they can all, like, these people can go form a, alliance, or these people can now as well.
But that was because Cam decided that he didn't want that to happen, because he knew that Gino was controlling the game. And so Cam decided, I'm not going to let them control the game. Here's all the information. So they all had equal information. And unfortunately, Ulysses was the one that decided that, he didn't really listen to any of it, because then he ended up saying that the bear, not bear,
the cat,
the lion, mauled him.
The elephant. No. You know what? I think that's very interesting too. Now that you say that, there's probably something going on in the back of their heads too that's like, well, I kind of think this, and maybe he's lying to me.
Right.
Because they all didn't follow suit to what he told them.
Right. I mean, there is a lot of dramatic irony here, in the sense that we as the audience see a lot of stuff that they don't see. And so
True.
There is a lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of intrigue and just questioning amongst the people in the house, even among the people of their own team, because they don't know if unless you physically have eyes on someone the entire day, you just don't know what's being shared. You don't know what's going on in the room that you're not in. Then after that, you just don't know if, when everyone's running around the house, they hop into a broom closet for just a few minutes, have a couple of conversations and whatever, and get back out.
Right. They have sign language, passing notes through the house. Like, I guess it's possible.
And
it's all possible.
Oh, and I think that's why Lindsay not getting the scared card creates still a lot of intrigue, in that now people are still right where they were, in the sense that I don't know that I can trust anyone. Everything I try to do blows up in my face, and it could certainly be because no one here is trustworthy.
Yeah. But I
Very
think a
bad.
lot of people are going to think Gino's trustworthy now, because he shared, at least to his team, he shared the actual information. And when they heard that's, they all hear how it really happens. So they knew that he wasn't lying, as opposed to previous times where they heard it and they're like, why didn't you tell me that? Like, you steered me in the wrong direction. Like, he was pretty straight up.
Yeah, although, I think that a lot of people are, even the people in the cast are in this house are, kind of canny enough that they understand that, okay, he was honest to me last time. That doesn't guarantee that he's honest to me this time. It's just like, it's exactly like in poker. Like, the reason that, you show a bluff is to show people that you can't be trusted, but it's the opposite. Just because you have the cards the first 4 times you show, everyone still knows you can bluff. And everyone still knows that Gino can lie. If anything, they know that Gino has shown them the truth, and that the next time could be the time that he's trying to get them out.
Right, but in their heads spinning of can I trust, can I not, can I trust, can I not. This was definitely a check in the I can trust for Gino.
Right.
Like I feel like there's so much going on in all their heads that like they might not be able to step back and look at that thing completely from all sides.
Gino seems sketchy to me.
Yeah?
Ever since that nap. I don't know.
You've had it out for Gino, huh?
No, I just he seems there's a lot of editing going on when he's running around the house doing his thing. Which,
Yeah, I don't even know where he came from.
oh, he's a
Like,
bar trivia host.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, when the clues were all, Sasha found the clue, and then Gino just appeared out of nowhere, grabbed a handkerchief, and was like, all right, let me go get the clue, and he
That's-
went right to it.
That's how bar trivia hosts do.
But it's interesting. We said that we kind of were saying the same thing last week about Ronnie. We're like, where'd he come from? So it's
Well-
very interesting that they're doing that. They're keeping us on our toes, like, who's going to be it next? Like, is next week Sasha going to know all the clues? And we're going to
No.
be like,
No.
and we're going to be like, oh my God, she knew. Like, we don't know.
I'm pretty sure of that one.
Yeah,
no.
and I
Oh my God, I love Sasha. She's been tweeting back. She's great.
Aw.
Okay, so then we move on to right after, they break down what exactly happens, which wasn't a big surprise this time. There wasn't anything in that breakdown that we were kind of like, oh, that, happened.
yeah, it would have been. I mean, they could have at least shown us where they got the mountain lion from. Like, what site? I'm curious. Petco.
Where they ordered them online.
Yeah.
Animal Finder.
No, but they
Oh, no,
did
no,
say that the animal was not hurt. I like that. And then we move to the scared or spared dinner. And again, like I really, Dana, I'm pretty impressed that she was the one that was totally like the safeguard right away. Like she displayed nothing but like intelligence this time. She wasn't dramatic at
No
all.
tears.
There was no tears.
She had the right, not just the right active ingredient, but the right compound, which impressed me as someone who enjoys the periodic
and
table.
she's a nurse and she was using her skills. Like she, as much as Gino stepped up and found it all out, like he got clued along the way. She kind of just used her background and her family background to figure out for herself what happened, which I was kind of impressed by.
Yeah, what was the family background? That it was.
Her dad was into bath salts.
Well,
no,
I don't think that was exactly.
I think there's a different type of bath
I'm pretty
salts that
sure
you're thinking.
that was not what they said.
Her dad might have been into bath salts, but that
that's-
was not what gave
No.
them the family business.
Let's not put that out there.
Sorry.
But she knew. Bring it back. She knew that the compound together made cyanide.
Sorry.
And Virginia has the giggles. Okay, so Dana's safe, and then we get all around. It's kind of a dramatic, scared, spared. And they, leave it down to like the Lindsay and all that stuff. And Cam and Ulysses are both scared. Which again, right away, like you were saying earlier, Brian, like that brings a big problem to that team of 4 when half the team is scared, like someone's gonna die on that team. So that was very, very interesting that's the way they did it.
Literally, someone literally is going to die on that.
No,
team.
they're not. And then, wait, hold the phone. Literally. Then we go to the phone call of the killer.
Yeah.
Giles gets the phone call with the killer. It says the killer calling, and it's this, recorded, put together voice message of each one of them admitting that they were the murderer. And I thought the facial expressions were, hilarious is maybe a good word as they went around realizing it. Good editing and how they're all saying like they must have edited this together or words from here, there, and the other thing. But again, that made me realize like, no disrespect to any other reality shows, but so many other reality shows are just based on like drama and, whatever's going on. Like I stubbed my toe, like I'm crying, this one, that one. Like, we know no one's dying, so all of this cast of this show are pretty good actors as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they play the game, and they're not just like reality stars of like they're not just themselves in this. Like they are to some extent acting every single episode, and I feel like it's good. It's believable. Some of it's a little overacting, like in some parts, like whatever. But it's not like. I think it's a lot better than a lot of all the reality other shows that are
It's
out there.
definitely up there with like the Kardashian level of acting that you can see on that show.
I don't frequent that show, but if you can explain, that would be.
It's very true to like they do. I think the only
Oh,
one
you're
that-
serious?
Yeah,
Oh.
like the Kardashians, they definitely act on that show. That's not real. Like we all know that that's not real. It's scripted.
Wait.
And even like, even
Wait, so
like-
Kim's not? She didn't have a baby?
you guys know what I mean.
Right.
There's definitely like they have to act. They have to be surprised, and I definitely
Right.
think that they do that. They do that very well. Melina tends to overact. I love her, but I mean I think we've just gotten really used to how
Wait,
dramatic she is on there.
Are Lamar and Chloe still together?
Yes.
Bringing it back.
Okay.
Bringing it back.
Bringing it back.
Yes.
Okay.
confused.
But yeah,
So-
they do a good job of it.
Yeah, I think
It's
they do a
funny.
good job.
It's nice and humorous. I feel like there was less puns this week.
No.
And less tears.
Less puns, less tears.
No.
More
Another-
significance.
There was
More
there were good puns. I'm sorry.
There
I like
was
the puns.
Mountain Lion. was
Yeah.
the name of the
Lyin.
Yes, that's
episode.
correct.
That was the only one.
No.
But which brings me
Just
to
go rewatch the Giles scenes.
yeah, the line. But okay, so then I'll come back to that. But then we go, the message from the killer about the stables. So, at the end, we're seeing the stables. We see everyone on the horses. I have to admit, Giles on a horse is maybe one of the favorite things I've seen on television in a very long time.
I like how he got a white horse.
Like, he got his outfit.
Yeah, he was the one who got to wear a hat. Everyone else was wearing a riding helmet, but
just
he got to
needed
wear
a whip.
he got a
He
cowboy
needed like
hat.
a lasso.
He's
love
really
him.
enjoying it.
I really, really.
chewing the scenery, but it's
Yeah.
good stuff.
He
Yeah.
was.
And everybody else got matching flannels.
Matching
Yes.
flannels.
It's my dream. Why don't we have them on this show?
We're almost matching.
You
I
guys
know,
are matching.
Steph, come on,
So
get on board.
I didn't get the memo, man. But then, we end with seeing that Ulysses is definitely killed on this episode. He got tranquilizered, or however that happened. We'll find out next
Slumping.
week.
Looks like I hope that the horse rolls over him, and then we have like a flat Ulysses, like in the end of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And so in the morgue, they're like,
Wait, so you're the first to say that the mountain lion's stuffed, but you think it's an actual horse rolling down the hill on him?
well, no. But I mean, if they were to, no, maybe it's a
Say.
large 600-pound stuffed horse.
It's possible.
Either way, it crushes
Yeah.
his ribs.
It does. I actually have witnessed someone get a horse on top of them in a polo match. It was pretty crazy. Anyway.
Oh, one quick thing is,
Oh.
if his hair is still well done next week, I'm going to be furious at this show, and I'm going to call them out on that, because we should see at least a stray hair.
He does have good hair.
His
he has
hair
pretty good
is-
hair.
Don't be jealous.
I'm not jealous. Well, yes, I'm perfectly, yes, his hair is better than mine, and I enjoy his hair, but that's not why I brought it up.
Right.
At 4:50 in the morning, his hair should not look like that.
Or after being trampled by a horse.
Well,
He
that's
might
what
use
this
the
is gonna be
same
true
stuff that
test.
Pauly D uses. Just keep it right there, straight.
Paula Dean?
Pauly D.
Oh, I thought he said Paula Dean also.
Yes.
No, Pauly D. Paula, whatever.
Paula Dean, also a good actress.
Yes. Anyway, okay. So also, I wanted to touch base on a couple of really interesting things that the viewers have been writing to us. This on YouTube, someone left a comment who was WMGGW1968, who said Ulysses is the killer. Think about it. Week 1, Sherry drops glass on his foot and is murdered for her clumsiness. Week 2, Dante shares info about the musket ball, which Ulysses said not to, and he dies. Week 3, Adriana barges into their conversation and is murdered. Week 4, Don shushes Melina in front of Ulysses and annoys him, and guess what? He's murdered. Which I think is very, very awesome that the fans are following along. They're figuring out these theories. Clearly, this theory isn't correct because Ulysses is dead now. But I think that there is a bigger picture happening here that people are aware of. Like, people are aware of one thing happening in one episode definitely affects something happening in the next episode, definitely affects something happening in the next episode. So I think that's really, really interesting. And we love your comments. Keep them coming. Also, before we move on to predictions, and we will this time predict who we think the next person to go will be, along with who we think the killer is, we just wanted to share some exciting news at AfterBuzz over here. Our creators, Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergo, have a new movie out, Adventures of Serial Buddies, and it's available for you guys to download. It's kind of like Dexter meets Dumb and Dumber. It's really funny. You guys should totally see it. They do a lot for us over here at AfterBuzz, so you guys should check it out and, leave some comments for them. But, okay, now on to our predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV
Okay, so let's start with who we think is gonna die next week.
Ulysses.
He's dead already.
Nah. Touche. The horse.
What do you think? What do you think? Virginia, what you got?
You know, I think that it might actually be Gino. I don't know why.
Really?
I just feel like Cam is going to come back with a vengeance in his team and they're going to try to freeze him out. I don't know. I'm just thinking like it's not going to be Dana. I don't think it'll be anybody on Cam's team because I think they're really like they realize that, you know, like they have to win this challenge or, you know, the clues. And I don't think it'll be Ronnie. And I feel like Sasha's just going to follow them around until they figure it out. So I feel like Gino is unexpectedly going to be gone.
Right. What about you, Brian?
I think Lindsay. I think eventually she's just going to be frozen out. I mean, it might have worked this week, and I know that they're going to want her on the Cam team next week, but I just feel like at some point there's going to be an opportunity to withhold information from her between Cam and Chris, and if they're both concerned for their well-being, they're going to take that opportunity. And I do think that Team 2 is going to start having internal division within the next 2 weeks, but I don't think it'll be dispositive for killing someone next week.
Okay. It's funny because I was thinking Ronnie. For some reason, I'm just thinking Ronnie.
A bounty hunter.
The bounty hunter, because he was really good and then he's quieting down. But like I agree with the Lindsay thing. Like that can only last, like if that lasts for the next 5 episodes that they're trying to like plot for her to get kicked out, it's gonna get boring. You know, like we're gonna get over that storyline. They've already made such a sharp turn on her storyline. You know, next week we also, what looks interesting about next week is that it is outside. So and then, so who do we think the killer is? Virginia, who you got?
I'm going to just go with Dana.
Okay. Brian?
I still think Gino.
I'm still going to go with Sasha. You can find me on Twitter at IAMSTEFZ.
And you can find me at Virginia Reyna.
And you can find me on next week's podcast.
Sweet. Matching outfits again. Thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great evening and keep watching.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.